Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Gentle Power.
Welcome. Today we have our friend Angela Liao
Yes. Yeah.
joining us here. And I was saying earlier that this is the longest lead time. And lead time is also a supply chain term we're going to talk about. But we met a year ago at this thing called Beta Breakers in SF, San Francisco,
Right.
where the entire town is out on the streets because there's some run from one corner of SF to another, and people dress. I don't even know how to explain Beta Breakers. So there's a run. There's like a mini marathon.
Like a fun marathon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then people are very expressive about their outfits.
Yeah.
Yeah. They would like dress like very.
There'll be like animal onesies or like really,
Yeah.
wacky costumes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so there's the people who are running, and then there's friends and other people who dress like an entire group will dress a certain way. So I think I had a group of friends this year, who dressed like chess pieces.
Oh.
Yeah, I still need to see the photos. And last year when we met, our friend had just gotten married, wrong. And we dressed like bridesmaids or something.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah.
We all dress in pink, I think.
In
right?
pink, yes, in pink.
Yeah, hot pink.
So that was literally exactly 1 year ago because
Yes.
Beta Breakers was
Beta
this past
Breakers,
weekend.
right.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was saying. It's been a year.
Right.
So when I met you, I'm like, oh my gosh, come on my podcast. Because I think people were like, you guys should talk. You both do negotiations.
Right.
And we were both then traveling. So
Yeah.
it didn't happen until a year later.
Yeah. But thank you for inviting me.
Yes, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
I was like, I know when you work in big corporate, and I want to hear all about your bio, but when you work in big corporate, you're like, what can I go to? What can I say? What can I write about? I remember working in all these, I worked in biotech, and they're extra sensitive with everything. So I'm like, what can I even say? So I understand your sort of curiosity, but slight hesitation.
Yeah.
But we're so grateful to have you here. We would love to get to know you better. Can you walk us through your life with a perspective and focus on how do negotiations, but also power stands out in your life?
Throughout my career, I find myself, I'm always in this negotiation role, partnerships, negotiation in supply chain. Now I negotiate now I'm with Google. And I'm in devices. So I'm looking at the strategy for phone 3 to 5 years out. What is the technology going to be like? And how are we going to work with our partners to manufacturing our product? And that includes a lot of negotiation of who want to invest what, and then how do we split the profit? How do we manage the resource like that?
When you say who wants to invest in what, do you mean like third party?
Yeah, like for the business partner that we're working with, if either like we would be investing or they would be investing. And if they invest, what is the benefit for them? And then what is the benefit for us? And then how do we collaborate and then enhance this partnership to make things successful?
Yeah. I have so many questions, but I know before we get any further, I know you had a list of disclaimers, and in my head I'm like, are we going to speed this up the way when they're asked for medication, they're like, no, death.
It's like, this is not a product of the FDA. It's like death and seizures. Yeah. So, yes. What are the disclaimers? Just so that we are legally good to go. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So the thing that I talk on this podcast is my personal experience and perspective. So it doesn't represent any company that I work for. It's just my own perspective and experience.
Gotcha. It's your own personal opinion. You are not representing all of Google. The board of directors did not send you to this podcast to represent the entire company globally. Okay. Got it.
Just myself.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. This is all your personal opinion.
Yeah.
So how long have you been at Google for?
4 years.
4 years. And you work in some sort of partnership, supply chain deals where you negotiate, you scope out. You said you're in mobile, so in phones?
Yeah.
And so you scope out what it's going to look like in 3 to 5 years, that landscape, and then you are in partnership and negotiating investments? And
Negotiating, some of them would include investment. Some of those would include like pricing, the structure, the commercial structure, how it would look like, how we wanted to partner with this business partner, like that.
What's an example of a business partner?
For example, that what I usually work with, I'm in supply chain. So it's usually like manufacturing partners.
Got it. Okay.
That we provide the design and the concept of the product. And the partner, they would provide the manufacturing capability. So we would send over our resource, our concepts and design to them. And then we would collaborate with them. And then they would help us actually make the product. Yeah.
Gosh, I have like 200 questions.
Yeah.
Well, the thing that I was curious about is, have you faced, and I think this starts going into the negotiations, how it shows up in your work. What happens, or what's the process when, let's say, Google sends the designs or the specs to the manufacturer, and the manufacturer comes back and they're like, that's literally impossible. Or like,
Does that happen?
Does that, or they're like, we can't deliver on this. This technology doesn't exist yet. We would have to change this aspect of it. How does that back and forth
work? This is actually our day to day. It's like a lot of time we have some concept or some thoughts. We were thinking, okay, maybe next generation or in the future generation, we wanted to have this. But we would test it out with a partner. So it won't be like, oh, we definitely want this when it's not available. So it's like a lot of discussions, a lot of trial, a lot of like proof of concept, a lot of things going on. And then eventually we would decide on, okay, next generation or next 2 generation, how it might looks like.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were going to say something?
Yeah, no.
Why don't we start with, did the job description have negotiations in it? Did the interviews test you on negotiations? If so, what did that look like?
Right. Usually in the job description, it would mention that it would include a lot of negotiations with a partner, because that is almost the core of our role, of our job. And during the interview, they would ask us about, okay, what are some cases, what are some examples of your negotiations, and how did you collaborate internally and externally? And how did you, for example, if you're in a tough negotiation, how did you close it? Like all these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. So let me ask you
Yeah.
this.
When I'm sharing about this, I'm thinking, okay, here comes the next question.
Yeah, exactly.
This is actually a surprise interview. It's not like for a job. No.
We're here for you to hire you here. I love that this is indirectly you showing Google you have options. You could go and work at your negotiations.
Uh-huh.
When you ask for a raise, you can just show them this video.
But the thing is, I think everyone in our team is very good. No, not interviewing. Like everyone is good in negotiation.
Yeah, because it's part of the
This
role.
is our role.
Yeah. So how did you get good at negotiations?
I would say there are 2 things. One is about the industry knowledge and like the players and like the understanding of this ecosystem. So that helps. And another people is like another aspect is like over time, we just with the experience, you just get better at reading the room, understanding people, and then listening, and then really know what they're looking for. Yeah, and by the industry part, because before I joined these brand company, before Google, I was at Tesla. Before I joined these, I'm actually on the supplier side, on the partner side for manufacturing. So I know like in and out for the like how the manufacturing company works, and then what they care about, where their resources are, and what their constraints are. So that also helped me in the negotiation in my like in these like Tesla and Google, like these company, when I'm negotiating like manufacturing terms or commercial terms with these company.
You deeply understand the constraints and all that.
Yeah.
So when you went from Tesla to Google, did you know specific people? Now that you're on the other side, did you ever know specific people or companies that are on the other side of the table, or you don't have to and it's fine?
You mean when I'm negotiating or when I switch?
When you switched and now you're doing partnerships, did you ever know the actual people because you had been on the other side?
Yeah. Sometimes we ran into like old coworker. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And then before Tesla, were you also in a negotiating adjacent role?
Yeah. So before Tesla, I was like my past life, I was in Asia. So I was in these manufacturing companies that build these products.
Yeah.
And I was also on the negotiation role, negotiating for these company with let's say like Apple or Google, like that. So it's like I'm always in these roles. It's just like different side of the table.
Yeah.
Which side is easier to be on when, in that negotiation?
I'm gonna guess is the big tech side.
Actually, I feel they're both like easy side and like stress side. Yeah.
It has like each side has different like kind
They
of
have different
pros and
leverage.
Cons. What,
Yeah,
what exactly is that
leverage.
on each side? Yeah.
Yeah. So, for example, if you're on the supplier side, the leverage is you're the company that make the product, and you have the you can decide which customer you wanted to take. If you're like really good and really big company, you can decide which customer you wanted to prioritize for the resource.
Wow.
Yeah, and because a lot of time when there's some resource constraint, actually a lot of company, they're like fighting for the prioritization. They want it to be more prioritized on getting the resource or getting like the space or everything like that. Yeah.
Like Apple versus Google, iPhone versus Pixel?
For example.
Android? Man, I don't even know what's the sorry, we should have done our homework. What's Google's phone called?
Oh my God.
Android, right?
Pixel phone, yes.
Pixel
okay.
phone, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
I will remember that.
Yeah.
Okay, wow. I didn't think, because in my head, I thought Google is literally one of the top companies in the world. They have all the leverage, they have the money, they have who wouldn't want to work with Google? But why is it that the supplier side has leverage? Is it because there's not much competition there? There's only few players there?
There are some players, but every supplier, their strength is different. Like some suppliers, for example, they might have really good location, or they have really good expertise in it. They know like some specific thing, they know how to do it, or they have very long, like they have been in this industry for very long. They have very good connection, for example. So sometimes when at a time when several companies, they wanted to optimize on one element, they will be maybe like fighting over one or two suppliers like that.
Okay, that's very interesting.
And then sitting on the other side, so let's
Yeah.
say you're the Google, the Apple, the big company that's working with these suppliers. What is their leverage? I think some people probably have an idea of like, obviously they're like one of the largest companies, very well-paying companies to these suppliers. But I'm curious if there are other aspects of leverage that people might not realize that they have, or maybe they don't have.
So I hear you talk about brand recognition, right? Like, okay, like big companies, so suppliers might want to work with them. Another thing is the volume. For example, iPhone, they're selling very well. So it's like a guarantee for the supplier that, okay, if we get this business, then we would, for sure, we're getting a lot of volume, we'll get paid well, like that. Sometimes it's like a proof of their technical expertise. For example, if this phone is hard to make or this product is hard to make, and if this supplier proves that they can make it, then in this industry, they have this thing, they can say, okay, we make this phone or we make this product, so we are equipped and we prove that we can do something harder or more precise or things that have higher quality. Yeah.
We get this question a lot. So it sounds like you worked in Asia. Where in Asia did you work?
So I was in several locations. So I was born in Taiwan. And afterwards, I was working in China I was in Shenzhen and Wuxi. Wuxi is somewhere close to Shanghai in Jiangsu, and then Sichuan, like Chengdu.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
I really love it. I love
My
the
favorite
places.
cuisines.
Yeah, like the hot pot.
Also, it's funny whenever we talk to our friends who have worked or are from China, we're like, oh, where are you from? They're like, oh, just from this small town of like 15 million people. It's like every place is just a massive city relative to the U.S.
This is a tangent, but my best friend in college, I was like, where in China are you from? She's like, you will not have heard it. It's a town of 6 million people. I'm like, that's double the size of my entire country. Albania is 3 million people. But we get this question a lot, where can you guys negotiate across cultures? Because sometimes we get clients, either they're negotiating with companies in other countries, other continents, or they actually do live there, different places in Europe, in Asia, and beyond. And so I'm curious, what have you noticed are the differences in how people negotiate in Asia, in, I guess, different countries or cities even, versus San Francisco?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Because we do negotiate with people in different country and different culture, different nuances. And it actually, the negotiation is different. Like the communication, the way of people, how people expect each other to show up is different.
Yeah. What are some differences?
In Asia, there is a lot of like these, you respect the elder, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, hierarchy. Yeah. So even if you're the customer, but if you're negotiating with someone that is elder than you still wanted to show that, like respecting elder people like that. Yeah. Whereas in the US,
Yeah.
people maybe doesn't really like care too much about this. It's like you're equal. Yeah. So if you use this mentality to negotiate with someone that is in Asia, they would directly feel offended. Yeah. So this is something that we wanted to put into our thoughts when we negotiate with people in Asia. And also in Asia, people value this harmonious more. For example, if you're negotiating with someone in Japan or Taiwan, people wanted to feel like this harmonious, collaborating.
Yes.
Yeah. But collaboration is also very important in US, but I would say that just the vibe, the vibe is much more, like people emphasize that much more in Asia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how much of that, I'm curious, because so I come from Albania, we're also very hierarchical. A lot of it, not to introduce a whole new thing, asker versus guesser culture. So a lot of it is guessing culture. How much of it is like sort of truly being collaborative or reframing things to seem collaborative?
Truly, you mean like, can you elaborate?
Let's see. So one thing that the US does really well is marketing, right? Reframing things into, let's do this because this will benefit you as well. Instead of, I want to really understand what your priorities are so that I can help you meet those priorities. I think that's one way to negotiate. And then there's another way, which is, I want this thing. I don't care about your priorities in reality. I want this thing. I'm going to reframe it as if this is good for you.
Oh, I see.
I guess it's very nuanced, but I'm curious.
Right.
You have seen that distinction.
Yeah. I would say from most of my
case, probably, yeah.
Yeah, but most of the negotiation that how I proceeded, I usually go for the first one, like how it actually can benefit both sides for long term. Because what I believe is this long-term partnership and building trust is the core of the negotiation and for the long-term success. So if we only do it on the surface, like, okay, this is good for you.
Yeah.
And people might get tricked. Okay, agree on that. But one time, two times, people also know that this is not something genuine. So I would always wanted to look for something that can really like expand the pie and then find a success for both sides.
Yeah, I love that. So how do you find out what the other party's priorities are? Do you ask straight up? Do you make assumptions because you know the environment so well because you've been on the other side? Or do you find out indirectly? Do you back channel or some other way?
Usually I would ask them.
Okay,
I would,
up. What are your
I would have some assumption in my head, but I would give them some time to talk first. And so to really understand where they come from and where they stand and how we can potentially find common ground. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're in a meeting and you're like, okay, I'm going to let them talk first.
It depends. Okay. Like sometimes I would talk first.
Yeah.
Yeah. But sometimes but even if I talk first, I would always make sure they have time to talk as well. For a long-term partnership, it's always better that you both really, really genuinely agree with this. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're stuck in a negotiation, what do you usually do? Because I imagine in big corporate, you could pull in leadership or escalate on one side or both sides. Strong arm them. Well, I'm Google, so or Tesla. What are your tools when you're stuck in a negotiation?
Yeah, that's a really good question because I actually built a tool for our internal team for a negotiation training.
Nice.
So we
I lead a team
to build this and implement this last year. So we do identify some of the leverage that is better for us to use it. For example, one is like you mentioned, maybe we pull in the leadership so we can let the leadership talk to the leadership. For example, that is one of the way. And a lot of time we would talk about the vision as well. So if we're stuck in a negotiation, we wanted to emphasize in the future how it might look like. If we agree on this deal, how it might benefit you in 3 years, in 5 years, how it would help you grow your business. So align on this vision, and selling vision is also a very big part of negotiation.
Sure.
Yeah.
So this tool, this is super cool. And however much you're able to share, because I know it's an internal tool. So is it like an AI chatbot that you practice the conversation before going into a meeting? Are they like video lessons, or how does, let's say I'm a Google employee.
Yeah.
How do I use this tool to prepare?
So last year when I launched it, we actually make it a physical cards.
Oh,
Yeah,
like
so
a
people
card
can,
game.
yeah, so people can see it, and then they can, when they're in the negotiation or before they go into the negotiation, they can have something to look at. But this year,
Like an iPad, or is it dynamic, or is it just an actual
Like a
card?
deck
Like
of
piece
cards.
paper?
a deck of cards.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then this year, I'm building it to be like more interactive, like AI chatbot, and they can pull these strategy and all these leverage to help you practice and give you some ideas and help you brainstorm.
Oh,
yeah.
very
Nice,
cool.
that's super cool. And this is for the people who report to you, or like a broader?
It's a broader team.
That is super cool. Yes, we
Yeah.
have been asked if we want to train a GPT on our content, and then I mean, I guess you are more helping people hone their negotiation skills. I think what we do is more like help people in a live negotiation. I don't know if your tool helps like in a live negotiation, but I think for a live negotiation, it's so customized and so specific to everything that's happening that I personally do not trust AI to be so refined in taking in all the details and then giving the best recommendation when something is like a hot deal.
Yeah.
But who knows, maybe down the road.
Yeah. Or just like brainstorm. Maybe we
Yeah.
take a small part in it and then brainstorm a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe it will give you some ideas.
For sure.
Yeah.
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 Awesome. I just have a million questions.
It was 200 earlier, and now it's a million.
Like more. It grows more.
So there is this super cool concept we learned a while ago, because Alex and I come from very different cultures. Alex is Korean, American, grew up in the LA area, and then I'm Albanian now, also American, grew up in Albania. So just a lot of cultures. And it was such an eye-opening thing. I read this article on The Atlantic a while ago. It talked about ask culture versus guess culture. Have you heard of this? So an ask culture is usually American, maybe like
more direct.
Western,
Or like
direct.
Western Europe.
Western
Yeah.
Europe. So it's basically something like, I think an example they gave in the article is like your close friend wants to stay with you for 4 weeks, and like you have a family and you don't live by yourself or anything. And so in an ask culture, they're like, hey, can I stay with you for 4 weeks? And then you say, sorry, no, it doesn't work for me. So that's the ask culture, very direct. And then there's guess culture. The person puts out feelers, and then the other person also like indirectly says yes or no. This is so funny because I shared this in Alex's family group chat, and his older sister was like, if someone asks to stay with me for 4 weeks, I'm like, how dare they put me in a position to say no? So in some cultures, it's like, I'll just say no. And in some cultures, it's like, you're putting me in a position to say no. So like even that in and of itself is an imposition. So I'm curious if you think about that as you're negotiating, and I guess it is related to culture, and how do you navigate your own preference and then what you read in the other party and sort of that whole complexity?
Yeah. I would say definitely in Asia, there is more like guessing part.
Yeah.
Even in just like day-to-day communication, there's a lot of like guessing, and then like small hint here and there, like things like that. And whereas in Western countries, like more direct, people would ask and give feedback more direct.
Yeah.
And this come into negotiation too.
Yeah.
But I also noticed the differences now in business, even Asian culture company, they're they're also changing to be more direct. Like, okay, if they really cannot do it, they would try to speak up earlier so that everyone knows, and then we can start to look into like the question, the problems, things like that.
Do you think that's a result of companies becoming more global? So,
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I think that is a big part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I definitely, coming from Korean culture, 100% guest culture, right? Like there's so much, there's actually even a word in Korean, and I think the closest is like intuition. It's called 통밥, almost like EQ. Like, you have the intuition or EQ to know what's happening without needing to say it.
Yeah.
So I do think, because I often think about, I've definitely become much further along in the ask culture, just being in the working world, having an Albanian wife. It's very, but I found that the guessing culture, the downside is that there are lots of assumptions that everyone needs to make, and you don't speak about it. And so sometimes assumptions can be off, and that could potentially lead to friction, right?
Yeah.
I do think that coming from a guessing culture probably helped intuition and EQ, and just being able to read what's happening, or like what's in the unsaid, like what are people not saying. But sometimes that can also go into like overanalysis, right?
Oh, yeah. But definitely that still exists a lot in the like for example, like Asian company, even in US companies sometimes, because of the dynamic, the business, sometimes people also don't really say it directly. So I think it happens in all kind of different situations.
I feel like on the far extreme of ask culture is probably what you would think of like Germany or like Scandinavia, Netherlands, and then I think the US is a little bit in the middle, but a bit more ask, and then like Asian cultures are very guess. Because I remember you had said like one culture difference that you really notice coming from Europe versus the US is, in the US there's a lot of like kind of like adding a lot of extra buttery language, or just a very simple example. You're with your friends, like, do we want to go do a picnic? And they're like, oh, that sounds so fun. But then they actually like don't really want to.
Yeah.
But then like in Europe, it's like, no, let's do something else.
Yeah. And if someone said that sounds so fun, it's in many countries in Europe, it's like, wow, you love it. Versus here, it's like, it depends on the tone and everything.
Yes. You just reminded me, like the German, very straight. It just reminded me when I was at Tesla, we worked with some German supplier, and we have this time zone differences. So when I asked them, for example, is at their 5 p.m. their time zone, I said, can we have a meeting at this time? And they would say, no, we're taking off now. We're not going to have a meeting after 5. But then they wanted to have a meeting at my 5 a.m.
Oh, wow.
And then they just want to do that. It's like they're very straight as.
How dare they?
But they just ask directly, and then they just reject directly, like even though we are their customer. So it's like when you mention that, I'm like, okay, this sounds familiar.
So they didn't see the fact that they're saying no to 5 p.m., which to us seems so reasonable. And but they didn't see the fact that like now
I have to get a bit
owed you a more reasonable time. But they're like, no, how about 5 a.m.? Okay.
And then our whole group just wake up at 5 a.m.
And you guys did it.
Yes.
Because at that time we really wanted to push through this business. I think they also noticed that there's some leverage in their hand, because we're like expanding. We are like really need to launch in a very short time frame. They know this, so they're like, okay, then we need to do it on their terms.
Did you think about the fact that you saying yes to 5 a.m. communicated to them your level of desperation?
Yeah, but I think it definitely, but we are very desperate at that time.
We're like, do anything.
We're like, we need to launch this. So we didn't really have time to do a lot of back and forth and a lot of negotiation on timing. We might be negotiating on business terms and all that, but we are not afraid to let them know that we're very desperate.
Okay, because
Yeah.
I would think about like if I say yes to 5 a.m., they know how much leverage they have.
Yeah.
Okay, but they already knew.
They knew, and if we don't agree with the 5 a.m., then we need to reschedule, and we just don't have that luxury of time to reschedule and delay. Yeah.
I think what I would recommend my clients do in that scenario, if you guys were my clients, I would say something like, you can still take some power back where it's like, oh, we actually wake up at 5 anyway because we run early or we go on hikes.
Yeah.
We live in San Francisco. We go on hikes.
Yeah.
As if like
We would love to.
Yeah, we would love. Can we do 5 a.m. every day?
Well, I was going to say the risk of that, they're like, oh, they start their day at 5. All the meetings moving forward are at 5 a.m.
But I think it's a good approach, a good way to communicate.
Or you find some other reasons.
Yeah.
But for myself, I'd be like, well, we make Google salaries. There's no one in Germany makes Google salaries. That would make me feel better. So, as you probably know, we ask every guest two questions. First one is, what are your hot takes in negotiations? Like, do you have anything that's kind of controversial or does not fit common sense or anything unexpected? It could also be about power.
Yeah. I would say over my entire career doing this negotiation thing, I actually have a very traditional core belief of this building trust in negotiation, building trust and partnership in negotiation. I feel all the tactics and everything eventually boil down to the core. And to see if we can continue to make the business better and expand the pie, I feel is the core of trust.
So it's like that above all tactics and strategies, that's like nice sprinkling on top, but it kind of comes back at the end of the day to the connection that you have. And
yes,
it is
that's
relationships.
My core belief, like relationship and trust.
Nice.
Yeah.
No, we totally agree. Do you have any hotter takes? I think a good hot take would be relationships do not matter. But then,
like one example for us when it comes to salary negotiations, and this is often like people are very surprised about this, is that we think that when people are applying to jobs, them doing market research on and getting all the data around salary ranges, that actually is a waste of time. And the reason is because like, first of all, the companies will always have better data than you.
Yeah.
As the candidate, you probably have access to Reddit, Levels, FYI, Levels.fyi. But even still, let's say you have the perfect data and you bring that into the conversation, every single company is prepared with canned responses that just dismiss what you say. They're like, thank you for doing this research, even if it's actually super accurate. You know, just so you know, our company, we have this compensation philosophy where we pay people based on ABC. They just throw whatever reasons at you. So this is how much we're still paying for the role. And so once we kind of explain it through, people are like, wait, that kind of makes sense. But everyone goes into applying to jobs thinking that like one of the absolute necessary steps is like get the data. What are the ranges for this type of role based on this amount of experience? But our take is like, you don't really need to do any of that. A lot of it comes down to kind of understanding your priorities, digging for information on what their priorities seem like. So then you kind of know what and when to ask for things. And then a lot of it is communication. How are you delivering this? How are you phrasing your ask in certain ways that kind of reveal, maybe have them share some things that you kind of know what's in the budget and things like that, you know?
Yeah. I really like that you said to know yourself first, to know how, for example, if it comes to like job negotiation, comp negotiation, I feel what is really important is what life stage are you at? And what is the most important things that you care about? Because every life stages, people prioritize different things. Sometimes they prioritize like health benefits.
Yeah.
Sometimes they wanted to have like more flexible time, or maybe they wanted to have there are so many different things, different elements. So I feel really like I agree with you that really know what stage your life is in and what you wanted to optimize the most and what it looks like maybe in the next 3 years. I feel that is the most important thing that we need to get clarity on to ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I was also curious So I assume you've negotiated your job offers, because that's probably part of the interview. It's like, how is she going to negotiate this job offer, and what does that tell us about how good she is at negotiation? So can you tell us a little bit about that as much as you can?
Yeah.
With all the disclaimers.
Yes, I feel it's really a stage of life you're in and what you wanted to optimize. Like, all of our package are different, and it all comes down to what is the most important thing for us to you. Yeah. So some people optimize on, for example, equity. Some people optimize on base because they want the cash flow. And some people, they might have kids, or they might went through some health scare or something. So they want to have flexibility on like working locations.
Yeah.
So all these things, it's like all these elements, I feel it's very helpful to know what you wanted to have, and then you have all these and come into the negotiation.
Yeah. It's so interesting because so many people go into offer negotiations thinking they don't really do this, because with every client that we work with, we always do the first thing we do is understand their priorities. Exactly what you said, because the default is I want higher numbers or like I want more money. But then when you start digging in, especially whether it's like, well, is it because do you want liquid cash because you're like saving for a big purchase, you know, like a house or a home? Is it the equity because you really believe in the company, like, you know, it's a startup? And you reminded me of this one past client that we've had. We've talked about this quite a number of times. She was negotiating, or we were helping her negotiate, and she was about to become a mom. And she was very fixated on getting this one specific parental leave benefit. When she shared it with us, like, we had actually never heard that like this is even a thing. The job would require that she lived in one place, and she would have to travel to the office once a month for a few days or a week or something. And she, because she was going to be a new mom, she's like, I really want the company to cover the cost for breast milk delivery service. She would pump, and then it would get delivered to where, because she was not traveling with her baby. And so we're like, okay, like, and so at every call that we had, she's like, I really, really want this. I want the company to cover this. But once we go through the priorities, very, very often, almost every time, two things happen. One is our client always ends up discovering new things that they really care about.
Yes.
Or when they list out all their priorities, they realize that some priorities actually can just be covered by another thing that's even more important. That way you don't have to make like an ask for that, right? So at the end of the day, it just came down to, well, this thing probably costs like, I think we did the numbers, it was like $4,000 a year.
Yeah.
So
it
was even less than that. So it's like, why don't we just focus on getting more cash?
Yes.
So you don't have to ask for this very bespoke thing that the company would have to get special approval for. They're kind of like, whoa, we've never even heard of this. It could like, you know, so the priorities thing is so important.
Yeah.
We ended up helping her make at least $40,000 more than the initial offer. And so at that point, it didn't make sense to also ask for this thing. That was like $2,000 to $3,000 a year.
That's 10 years of breast milk delivery service for her kid. No, just kidding.
But I was thinking about your interview process, because when I had a very tough job earlier in my career, and I negotiate all my job offers, and it just so happened that later on I was given very exciting projects at work, and I was told that it's because my manager was like, I saw how you negotiated the job offer, I trust that you can handle these tough projects. I was curious if, as you were negotiating the recent job offers, doesn't have to be the most recent, like, was it in the back of your mind, like, how I negotiate this will communicate to them how I will perform in the role? And then have they mentioned that how you negotiated actually, I guess, helped tip the scale on whether to hire you?
I feel every company probably have different policy, and some company is more flexible, you can negotiate more, and some companies, they have a range, and then there's not too much of a flexibility. So I feel knowing like what might be their hiring structure is also pretty important to know. Okay, if you can really push hard, or you want it to be respectful, like that. And for our case, sometimes our hiring manager might not be the one that we eventually stay with. We might be hired by this manager, and then 6 months after there's a reorg, so we have another manager. So that doesn't necessarily really carry through. But I think that's a very good point. Yeah, because the first negotiation is the timing that you show to the company and the team that, okay, this is my style, this is my determination, and this is how good I am. Yeah.
Yeah, no, totally.
Oh, I was going to ask, so we probably have listeners who want to do what you are doing at a top company like Google. So in the interview process, when they've asked you questions around the negotiations aspect, how did you answer it, or what were some things that you really wanted to shine through? Just for our listeners who are listening, they're like, this is something they should keep in mind when they're going through interviews for the similar type of role you have.
I feel like cultural fit is something like for the big tech, that company cares about, like the cultural fit. Like, for example, for Google, is like collaboration. You wanted to really show the collaboration aspect when you're doing the interview. You wanted to show how you communicate. You wanted to show how you find the common ground when people have different priorities. Like, you wanted to show these. So, and in Meta, it's like different. Amazon is like Apple. Like every company has their different main culture. So finding the main culture, like what people care about, I feel is pretty critical in the interview.
Yeah. Oh, that is very important. Like, especially Netflix and Amazon, they're very more aggressive and direct.
Yes, and Meta,
versus Google is a lot, softer, gentler, I think.
Yeah, you in the interview process, you probably wanted to show that aspect.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. That is very important. Yeah, so when people ask us about, like, do we know how to negotiate across cultures? We're like, even within SF, even within different companies,
so different.
There's different cultures within each company, and that there is so much variability, even in like within the same city, same industry. And I don't think it's necessarily a whole other game from one country to another, because that variability is already, there's so much in one area.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through, this is our second question that we ask everyone. Can you walk us through a specific negotiation? Who was involved? What was discussed? And what was the outcome, the learnings?
And especially if there were challenges that you faced throughout, and that you kind of had to figure out, how do we kind of overcome this roadblock or something like
that. I'll talk about a negotiation. It's that I lead, a contract that I lead. It's between company and company. It's a very big amount of contract, an agreement.
A big contract.
A big contract. Yeah, a lot of money. And we wanted to sign this contract so we can enable this business in a new country. So there is a lot of new terms and new, just like commercial terms in this contract. And one main thing that eventually two sides were not able to align on is like the government incentive. It's like very huge. The government want us both to come into the country to do the business. But both of us, we both really want this incentive. And it's a lot of cash. But one side, we think that, okay, we do the actual investment, we put the money up front, so we really want this government incentive. But the other parties, they think that we are the main brand that enable this business, so we want to have this incentive.
Wait, sorry, the two parties are each want, can they both have it, or only one can have it?
They can both have it, but they are just never come to an alignment on who take which percentage.
So it's like, how do you split that?
How do you split
And
the
this
incentive?
was your company and then another company partnering on entering a new country, entering a new market.
Yes, entering a new market.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting, because a lot of people would default to 50-50, right? But like,
right.
Yeah.
So at that time, the company that I'm negotiating with, they want 100%.
Strong opening shot.
Yeah, they're like, we basically lead the business. So it's like,
That's
no
so
question,
funny.
we want 100%.
Wow. Yeah.
Can I pause you for a second? Because this reminds me of a very interesting study that has been done in psychology. I wonder if you guys have heard of it, which is, or I think it's in economics, actually. So they give you, I don't know, $100, and they're like, go share it with someone else. If that person agrees to whatever split you both land on, then you each get to keep the amount, but if they don't agree, then no one keeps it. And they were trying to figure out where people will land. And if you're hyper rational, which I am known to potentially be, so I get $100. If I give you even just $1 and I keep 99, you should say yes, because you're better off than zero, right? But what they notice is that no, people will say no. Because even though you're better off than zero, it doesn't feel fair to you. You say yes when it's much closer to even. So maybe around 40, 60, of course, 50, 50 and all that. And this was so eye-opening for me because I studied math and engineering. I'm known to be very hyper-rational. And logically, the other person should say yes, they're better off. But people are willing to hurt their own, I guess, utility in the name of fairness. So when you said that the other party wanted 100%, that's so interesting because I imagine maybe your party would be like, definitely not. And we might even be willing to harm the deal because they're being so selfish. I don't know how it ended up. So go ahead.
Yeah. So we were stuck in the final term for several months.
Wow. This was the term. The government incentive had to split it.
So specific, we have a lot of term we all agreed on, right. And to close out this contract, it's just the final term. We're just not able to close it out.
Yeah. Wait, what was your side's move? So they're like, we want 100. Were you like, no, we want 100? Or were you like, no, we should do 50-50? Or what was your counter offer?
And were they like an equal partner in terms, because you explained that your company did a lot of the investment. They were saying we're kind of the brand that actually made this even possible.
Right.
So, and then were they a much bigger company, or you felt like you were equal partners going in, or what was that situation? I'm so curious how this turned out.
I know.
So the dynamic is we do make the investment. And like industry-wise, is both really big company.
Okay.
And both are really important to each other.
Okay.
It's not like if they look for other people, then they can make it. It's not like that. They both know they definitely need each other.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like pretty equal matching.
Pretty equal leverage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then from our side, we're like, let's do it 50-50.
Wow. Okay.
We're like, let's do it.
We want 100. You're like 50-50.
Did they go first? Like
they went first,
did they
right?
say first we want 100%? Because I'm curious if there was like some anchoring going on based on who.
Yeah. They go first.
Yeah.
They're like, we just want 100%. There's no negotiation. 100%.
Wow. And were you worried? Because so if they say 100, you say 50-50. The best you will get is 50-50, but more likely you will end up in the middle. So 75-25.
Right. So we actually at that time we feel if we get 20-25, we're okay.
So that's why a 50-50
right.
move. It's like in the name of fairness or what's common. But you're like, we will probably end up at 25, and so we're good with that. Yeah. Okay,
right.
Is there a world where if your team said we want 100% first, or if you even just threw out the number first, that you think it could have gone differently?
In that case, I don't think, because that's like the first move, right? Sometimes you wanted to drop the first move in the negotiation. As an anchor. But this negotiation, it lasted for like several months. So there's a lot of element that we're looking into it. So let's say even today, they didn't come in as, in the beginning, they want 100%, but in their mind, they're like very strict on, they really need more. A lot of time, if it's like a short negotiation that we know is going to close pretty soon, or we know that our first move would impact the negotiation, then I think it matters. Yeah, but for this specific case, it's like it lasts pretty long, like several months. And then at the same time, we're also discussing other terms, the interaction, and a lot of things. The first move, that impact, got diluted a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where did you land?
Yeah, how did I
So we eventually did got a percentage. That is where we originally
the one you wanted.
Yeah.
Around 2020.
Yes, that is where we wanted. But we also come in to discuss on other terms. For example, we said, if we secure this contract, we want to make sure that next generation, we have a certain percentage of the share.
Okay.
Yes. And then
the government thing.
Like the product.
Okay.
The product. We wanted to have a certain share. And also, once we signed this contract, like every unit that we shipped, we wanted to have a higher incentive for us.
Essentially, what you're saying is you let them have more of the government incentive, but you ask for something else in exchange.
Yes, yes.
Got it.
And something that is not like directly so harmful for them.
For them, got
Yeah.
it. Okay, cool. But also what I'm deducing from what you said, you would have been fine with around 20% of the government incentive. That tells me that they were more justified to have more of it, right? Or would it have been fairer? Because obviously we don't know the ins and outs, but like, would it have made sense for it to be 50-50, or they are more justified to have more of it?
Or say long-term wise, we wanted to continue to partner with them more. At that time, that year, we have similar leverage, but long-term wise, they have stronger leverage. So we wanted to make sure that this long-term partnership, they feel that they benefit more.
Okay.
Yes.
So in vacuum, the government incentive, if I understand correctly, should have been split 50-50.
Right.
But your side was like, it's okay. We'll let them have more of it. One, to show goodwill and that more long-term partnership. Two, because we can ask for something else in exchange that they will not mind giving us.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
that's the thinking.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah, that's like creative
that is very,
outcome. And it seemed like to that company getting as much of that incentive was a huge priority for them.
Yes.
Because they kind of came out swinging with like, we want 100%.
which is very aggressive move.
Right.
Like again, in the context of that economic study, if someone comes in like, I want all of it,
Yeah.
it's aggressive, right? Did you find
It's
it
very aggressive. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But also, it also shows us that, okay, this is really their
matters to
priority,
them.
really matters to them.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So then you can use that to your advantage.
Right.
We can make this concession, but let's lock in
Right.
things that are important for us longer term.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I see.
So this highlights something else that's important in the context of finding out about the other side's priorities. You can straight up ask them like you do, but you can also read between the lines. When they're making moves, you're like, okay, if they're going to come in with 100%, which is an aggressive move, one, they're either being aggressive, but if you read the broader context, maybe it means they really care about this.
Right. Right.
Yeah. I guess you're reading both directly and indirectly. Yeah.
Yes,
I like
yes.
that a lot. There's a couple follow-up questions on this case that I'm very curious about. One is, you mentioned that you were negotiating different terms. What's your take on whether to negotiate multiple terms at the same time, especially at the beginning, or negotiate things one by one, at least initially, the things that are most important to you? I'm curious your take on that.
That's a very good question. And because before our negotiation, we usually would strategize it first. And we would list out, like, at least in our head, like, what are everything that we wanted to negotiate. And the next thing is we would prioritize. So from how I do it, I usually go in one by one. I would ask for the thing that I care about the most. I would start from there. And other things that I think that they might be easier for them to give in, like I would mark those out as well. Those are the things that I can talk about, or something that I'm willing to give in, like that. Yeah. So in the beginning, I will go one by one, and eventually we will slowly go to
Bring in others.
later on.
Okay.
And if in the beginning we already settle, then some small things we probably didn't even need to bring up.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree. That is our approach as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have clients who come in with a long list of things. And this is why AI is tricky, right? Because when you talk to, let's say, one of the AIs, and then you're like, here are all my priorities in this job offer negotiation, write me an email. And you need to be so careful with the prompt, because I test them a lot around negotiations. And so they will prepare a beautiful email, or like, hey, I care about this and this and this. But that's why you need someone who's, very experienced in negotiations. It's like, hey, this email is beautiful, but the broader strategy is that you want to negotiate your top priorities and non-negotiables first, and that you don't want to put all of it on the table. So there's so much nuance to how you conduct a negotiation that the AIs are not there yet in how refined they are.
Yeah. But as you're talking about that, it reminds me, sometimes during negotiation, I would also start with some terms that is easier for them to agree.
Okay.
Then they will agree, and then I'll come in with another one, and then I will say, this one is not so far off comparing to the previous term, like things like that, to like soften them a little bit.
Oh, it's like warming them up to the thing that
to agree.
The thing that you want.
Yeah, sometimes it's like that. Or I will start with one or two term that is beneficial for them. So they feel that, oh, you really know what I want.
Yes, building goodwill.
Yeah, and then I'll bring, okay, this is something that is really important for us. Yeah.
I think the first one that you said, I think it's called foot in the door. You ask for something small, they're getting used to saying yes to you, and then you ask for something you really want. You said yes this whole time. There's so much psychology that goes into negotiations. People might be wondering, and we get asked this a lot, do you have a law background? Are you a lawyer or anything?
No.
And do you think being a lawyer has an advantage in negotiations? Do you feel like, how do you think about that in the context of your work and negotiations?
That's a really good question. In all of our big negotiation, we always partner with a lawyer. And that is because they know that, let's say if we draft out a contract, they know that what are the terms might be harmful for us or might in the future might be interpreted differently, things like that. So I feel it's like not necessarily to have a law background, but it's something that would help when we review the contracts or things like that.
But for example, someone might argue, why don't we just get a lawyer to negotiate the contract? How do you think about
I feel it's very, very different.
Yeah.
Because lawyer, they know the legal terms, but usually the people that is negotiating is usually the business people. The business people, they know what they need, they know what they're asking for, and the law person, they would be like supporting.
Yeah.
It's complementary.
Yeah.
Is I think what you're saying. It's two different skill sets and
It's very different skill sets.
strengths and sort of priorities.
Yes.
I think also law is around like sort of protecting the interests and terms and like making sure less liability, no liability.
Right.
So it's more from that perspective as opposed to thinking about the business. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like the letter of the deal, the lawyers work on, and then the spirit of the deal, the business people with the relationships. You make sure that everyone feels better off and they are better off.
Yeah. And you understand the business side.
Yeah.
I think in a lot more detail. Yes, for us it's the same. We don't get, I think we get asked this more conceptually, but not from our clients or potential clients because they understand. I worked at salary.com for a long time. I worked at LinkedIn. So I understand like salary negotiations or business negotiations from my background in venture capital, being a VC-backed founder, biotech, all that. Like, versus a lawyer understands how to put together a legal protection, a legal wording, but not necessarily how to conduct a negotiation in specific areas.
I think that's kind of a misconception because people think it's like, oh, I'll just have like the lawyer figure it out. But they're going to figure out to make sure that you don't get screwed, but they're not working to get you the best deal. Or, I mean, maybe they are, but they're operating from like a different perspective.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, or it comes down to the nature of the business, like what we are going to negotiate. If it's something that on the legal side, then it makes a lot of sense for the lawyer to drive that. But if the nature is like the business, then lawyer is always like legal is always a very important component to make sure that we're protected and the terms will like benefit us like long term.
Yeah.
But if the core is business, then it's always like makes sense for business people to drive it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, we're aligned on that. Okay. We're safe from lawyers. We're safe from AI. Yes. Were you ever trained on negotiations, or you picked up from experience?
I would say 80% pick up from experience or 90% from experience. Yeah. Occasionally, we'll go to these negotiation training to see, what are some new things that we probably didn't think about like that. But most of the time is from experience.
Okay.
The negotiation training is workshops offered at Google.
I went to those before, like workshop that they hire external, like people from external. They train on negotiation and the workshop, like some practice like that. But I feel like 90% is still from experience.
Got it.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, we're super happy to help train Google people on their negotiations.
Have a great.
Hit us up. No, I'm just kidding.
A couple more questions. So, how do you think about anchoring? Because you mentioned that in your example, which I super enjoyed. That example was so good. Who should anchor first? Do you want the other side to anchor first? Do you want to be anchoring first? If not, what's the nuance?
Yeah, good question. I feel it depends.
Yeah.
I know there is a lot of theory talking about you never show your cards first. But there's also some theory saying that you wanted to set the anchor first. You wanted to go first. In my experience, what I would do is if I know this very, very well, and I know their range, I know what they might be asking for, I know my range, I know this very well.
Sort of each side's zone of
right.
yeah.
If I
zone
know
of
everything, the
agreement.
zone, if I know it very well, I'll probably just go.
You will anchor first.
I will anchor first to show that, okay, this is what I want.
Okay. Where do you anchor in your range?
Oh, it's on a higher, so we would said there will be an anchor, there will be a point that is like the lowest you can accept, right? And then a point that is like you feel satisfied with this. And then I will anchor a bit higher.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like how much? Like, I don't know, like 10, 20% higher than...
It depends.
Okay.
You kind of feel it out, like what feels like...
maybe like 75, maybe like around 75%. If my comfortable range is like 50%, and then the lowest that I can accept if it's 25.
Let's make up some numbers. So let's say the
0 to 100.
Like a contract is, I don't know, 1 to 2 million. I don't know. So you're like, I want at least $1 million. I would be happy with 1.5 million. And then beyond that, it's ideal.
For example, if we're coming to a 2 million contract and then 1 million is the least that I know, the least. And 1.5 is, okay, this is where my head is. I hope we're getting 1.5. And I know if I get to 1.9, it's not respecting them. Because like there's a point, it's also like, okay, it's going to piss them off. It's not going to show respect.
Okay.
I'll probably go like 170, 180 around that. I won't go to the point that they feel, oh, you're not respecting us. Yeah.
But in the example you gave earlier, when that other side went like,
they came
100%, like,
right.
You probably felt disrespected. You're like, yo, dude, we're partners here.
So it's. I feel
there's nuance.
I feel there's a lot of nuance. Like negotiating, there's a lot of nuance. Yeah,
I agree.
That made me think of so your approach there is. It made me remember I took a negotiations course at the Kennedy School, and there's at Harvard Kennedy School, and what I learned was typically, this is general approach. Of course, every situation is different, but you want to anchor first when you have asymmetric information or like more information or high confidence in your information.
Yes.
Again, I think there's still lots of other things to consider. Like, how do you is this like a long-term relationship? Are you negotiating in a vacuum? All these things.
I think that, like you mentioned, like the case is if you have more information, but sometimes negotiating with company is that you don't have that many information. You don't know their range.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
In those kind of cases, if I come into a negotiation, I don't know their range. I don't know the ceiling. I will let them go first.
Yes, exactly. that was the train of thought. I was trying to connect the dots. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, that's great. One other thing is, so you were talking about how you approach the order, like either you negotiate in a certain order, or you also sometimes, or eventually you negotiate multiple terms at the same time. How do you think about non-negotiables? Do you come straight up like, because I'm thinking about in the context of job offer negotiations, I have some clients who are like, I will not work 5 days from the office. That is non-negotiable for them. They will not accept the job offer if the company asks them to work from the office 5 days a week. And so how would you handle something like that? Like, do you go straight up just to not waste each other's time, or do you save it for later in case there's flexibility?
I won't think that. Okay, don't waste our time. I won't think that way. I would more lean to, okay, let's discuss. Let's discuss how we can make it work.
But would you say it up front or save it for later is the question.
Up front, you mean before the interview or already at the negotiation stage of the comp?
Either. Yeah, either option.
I would probably save it to the negotiation. Like after we found that there is a mutual fit for the role, and then we come to the negotiation for the comp and the terms, I would bring it up at that time. I'll probably bring it not straight up, but maybe pretty early, I'll bring this up and then see how we can, what are the other things that I can bring? I can
to make up for it.
Yes, yes. And I'll also remind them how I would bring value to the team. Yes, without being 5 days in the office, and also understand why they want people to come in 5 days. What are the things that they care about? Is it because of the collaboration, or is there anything that I can use other ways to make up for it, like that?
Yeah.
Nice.
I like that a lot. I think what I tell my clients in this context is, if it's your dream company or if it's a company you really care about, go ahead with negotiations or go ahead with the interviews and job application and everything, and then save it. But sometimes people are like, they already have a job, they're working long hours, they have a family, now they're interviewing in 5-10 companies, and so they're like, I say, if it's not an ideal company and they are not flexible, there's rumors, why waste your time? So I guess there is also that nuance.
Yeah, I think there's also that nuance is if they have a lot of opportunity that they're sorting through, probably it makes more sense to go for the company that can provide the terms that match their lifestyle most.
Yeah. Awesome.
Final question. What is something super secret that Google is working on? No, you don't have to answer that. Want to end with a disclaimer. Everything shared here was your personal opinion, not a representation of Google. Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Any other examples you are willing to share or have thought of? I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll save it for next time.
We'll save it for part 2.
And we also get this question a lot. Do you negotiate, because you do this at work, do you negotiate in your personal life? And what does that look like if you do?
Yeah, I got that question too.
Yeah.
But sometimes I think probably when you're helping people negotiate, you also find that negotiating for other people feels different than negotiating for yourself.
100%.
Oh, true.
Right? Like when you're in this and you're thinking of you wanted to negotiate with your friends, or I think it's different. So I feel the approach is very different when I'm in business versus when I'm in my day-to-day.
Yeah.
So the answer is it's not the same.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
Wow,
Awesome.
this was great.
Incredible. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was only a year later, but we should definitely have a part 2 at some point.
Yeah, we'll for sure have you back.
Yeah, I feel like once this is out, this is such good leverage for you in future job negotiations. Awesome.
Thank you
Thank
so much for
you.
joining us.
Thank you for
Bye,
having
everyone.
me.